438 of the DFO Rundown, as always brought to you by Bet365. It's never ordinary. Bet365, get in the game. Use the promo code NATION, NATION. Of course, all the prop bets for the Super Bowl come out. Oh my goodness, there's thousands and thousands of those. So have some fun. Bet365, of course, light night Friday, but with only one game. And then 14 games Saturday. We, of course, have NHL right up until next Thursday. Then you break for the Olympics, and man, the Olympics will be fun. Some more potential injuries for Team Canada, still waiting on the status of Braden Point. Now Brad Marchand injured, so his status a little bit up in the air, so lots to discuss. I am Jason Greger, as we welcome in my Friday co-host, Mike Rupp from the NHL Network, Stanley Cup winner, Game 7 hero. And Rupper, speaking of heroes, it was a hero of comeback night last night in the National Hockey League. Let's start with the Hurricanes and one of the most unlikely comebacks ever. They're down 4-2 in the final 2 minutes. They score 3 goals in regulation in the final 2 minutes. Only the third team in history to do that. And what a gut punch for the Utah Mammoth.
Yeah, and the Mammoth have been playing really well too. So the way that game was going, I was thinking to myself, wow, like Utah keeping this thing alive and getting a big win here, and then seeing that happen. Those are the type of things that I don't know. Those are just those special kind of games and moments. If you're the Carolina Hurricanes, it's impressive because, like the Utah Mammoth, like I said, we've been playing good. This isn't like you could see this happening against certain teams, but Utah wouldn't be necessarily one of them. But yeah, I mean, just a wild night of games and comebacks, and that's kind of the league what it is now. You know what I mean? Like maybe I shouldn't be surprised that we have moments like this. You can go back over the course of this season and start just grabbing some different games where you just see. I mean, we've seen 3 goals in 30 seconds. We've seen 3 goals in 50 seconds. Like we see some moments of just huge momentum shifts. But for 2 potential playoff teams, that one kind of surprised me a little bit that it happened. But the Carolina Hurricanes, wow, that was incredible.
And, you know, like Utah's right in it as far as the race. And so that's a real gut punch. But it's funny, one of the teams they're battling, the San Jose Sharks, blew a 3-0 lead in Edmonton. Now, granted, it wasn't in the final 2 minutes, but Edmonton was trailing 3-0 going into the third. They score early, then they score 2 goals in the final 3 minutes to tie it, and then win it in overtime. So, gut punch, tough one for the San Jose Sharks. But in that game, there was a play in the second period. San Jose is winning 3-0. Rupper, and Celebrini's in kind of on a partial break. Matthias Ekholm is coming back, and I think Pat has the video. He's coming back, and Celebrini's head goes back like thinks there's a high stick, and he's like, no. And he's literally, you can see the video, he's pointing at the ref like, no, he didn't touch me. But the ref didn't believe him and still called the penalty. I don't think I've ever, the guy comes over and says, hey, he didn't touch me. And clearly the replay shows he didn't touch him. How can you not change your opinion there as an official? Like, that's mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about it from a different standpoint. First off, is great street cred if you're Macklin Celebrini. You get the respect of the veteran players across the league. Anybody that sees this, that the kid plays the right way, but also you might get the benefit of the doubt moving forward for other calls, referees, because you're not showing them up. But with that being said, then why would you still call the penalty? I don't know. I've seen things like this, maybe not as egregious as this one, where he's waving his hand and saying whatever. But over the course of my career, anytime you get high stuck, think about it from this standpoint, a lot of different situations. And he didn't grab his face. And we see that all the time where you're grab your face, looking to see if there's blood, even if some of these situations doesn't even touch you. That's just, you're trying to sell it. Referees will come over. Hey, let's take a look if you're cut. Didn't need to do that in this situation. But even in those situations, I've seen guys where they're like, hey, that didn't get me, whatever. And the penalty's not called. So I don't know why that one was called. I'd love to hear an explanation to it. But from the Celebrini standpoint, you might get calls in your favor in the future because of plays like this. Like you do the right things at the right times, whether it was capitalized on or not. You're kind of revered as being an honest player from both players themselves and referees. That was a good thing for him, but weird play.
Yeah, very weird. And Edmonton, terrible start again, but they finally won 3 in a row. It only took them, I'd looked it up, Rupper. That was their 55th game of the season, finally to get a 3-game winning streak. That ties the franchise mark.
That's nuts.
Yes, it's crazy to go 55 games. Like, remember the Buffaloes? I looked up the Sabres, the year that they were tanking to try to get McDavid, and they actually finished dead last. They had 3 winning streaks. They had a 3-gamer, a 3-gamer, and a 4-game. They only won 23 games that whole year, but they still had 3 of them. Like, it's been wild for Edmonton. They've kind of been inconsistent, but despite all of that, they wake up this morning and they're tied with Vegas atop the Pacific Division. Now, Vegas has games in hand, but Edmonton has the regulation win advantage. And, it's kind of a race there for first place between them and Vegas. And, I look at Vegas, they're there because they've had 14 overtime losses. Like their NHL record is 18, and they're easily on pace to beat it. It's wild how many, overtime loss points we've had. You just look at Colorado 9, Minnesota 10, Dallas 9, Vegas 14, Edmonton 8, Seattle 9, LA 13. You look at Pittsburgh 11. Like there's been a ton of those, but way more so involving Western opponent teams. And it's like we've seen more overtime games in a long, long time. And I just, I'd like him to change one small change in overtime, Rupper. Eliminate over and back and do it as quick as you can. Once you gain red line,
I like that.
Like, it's just too many teams were wasting time going back and forth. And I don't know. Does that, at least that means overtime will be better? Because now we're getting more overtime games, which are going to shootouts, which is what they don't want. And a lot of the overtime games aren't as exciting as they used to be.
No, that's true. That's true. What's funny? I'm surprised we haven't seen yet is, let's just think about the most dominant overtime guys. Let's say over the years, Leon and Connor, for the obvious, what they are and as players, and they've, seemed to connect in overtime over the years a bunch. So say you're Edmonton, just to use an example, and you've got Leon, Connor, and you want to go Boosh is your 3 in overtime. And you play them at the start of overtime. I'm not saying this tongue in cheek. Like, I'm serious I'm surprised we haven't seen this yet, where you put them out there, and if there's no goal, you know how a lot of times both teams kind of change at the same time, and you'll see someone kind of going back like it's a power play. What if that next guy that got out for, say, Edmonton in this scenario just literally skated around the outside of the rink the whole time? The other team's not going to pressure you and try to get like, because that's how those overtimes work, right? Like, one slip up and you got a 2-on-1 the other way. You could literally probably just wheel around for 45 seconds until Connor, Leon, and Boosh are ready to come out again, and then just check it with them. Like, I'm actually surprised that we haven't seen that type of strategy yet, but it's kind of close to it. It feels like at times because of the way they check back and get outside the blue line. So I am for that. I think it would make it more exciting because you're going to have less real estate. But then it gets weird because what do you do in those situations? If you do go back, is it a whistle? Now it's kind of chopping up the flow. Yes. I don't know. That's my only question mark to it.
Yeah, they're doing it in Sweden. And first, if you go over and back, it's a whistle now in your defensive zone, right? So you lose it. And then if you do it a second time, it's a penalty. Yeah, they put it in Sweden, and they've implemented it this year in their second division. And so other leagues are doing it. It's just, I can tell you, like, now it's going back on purpose. If the other team knocks the puck off your stick, just like in basketball, that's not over and back. It's you've got to cross it with possession. Like, you're telling me 3-on-3, like, you got 3 guys on the ice. There's more than enough room if you want to exit the zone. But what it does do, Rupper, when I say over and back, is that very few teams are going to purposely come outside the blue line now, because now you're getting closer to the center ice line, right? Like, there's just less and less space, and I'm going to pressure you now. Where are you going to go? So I think it would open things up, and this isn't changing the fabric of hockey. It's 3-on-3. It's supposed to be exciting. And now, because, you talk about how, like when Nathan McKinnon and Makar are on the ice, or McDavid and Draisaitl, and I'm naming them because they're some of the best duos. I've seen the opposing team take the puck and just sit behind their net and do nothing for 30 seconds, trying to get those guys off the ice, right? So, you could do two things. You could say over and back, and then you could put in lacrosse, you got to get to center in 20 seconds, right? So it forces you to attack. That's what 3-on-3 is supposed to do, is attack.
Yeah, and that would add. I was just kind of laughing when you said the fabric of the game, because you've said it. 3-on-3 is not the fabric of the game. So anybody that has a problem with changing any other rules to it, it already is something that's not hockey. So I agree. I agree with that. And it would make more aggression too, because not only are the team that has the puck, if you skate yourself into a tough area of the ice, you know what the consequences are of that, but it also, you can sniff that out as the opponent. So now you're going to pressure more. You're not just going to stay between the player and your net. You're like, oh, he's going there. Like, I'm going to strike right now. I'm going to put him in a terrible spot. And so when you have aggression in overtime, that's where we see the fun, right? Like, that's where we see the back and forth. And still, when we have those games and we have those overtimes where you get those 2-on-1s, back and forth, breakaway, like, it's still so exciting, man. And as much as I don't love 3-on-3, that's pretty sick. The problem is we don't have enough of it. So this would probably push it along and we would get more.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think it's way better if you do it. So it's something that I don't understand. Like, you look at today, the NHL has played 856 games this year. There's already been 80 games into shootouts. Last year, we only had 77 games in shoot. There have already been more shootouts this year, and we've played 456 fewer games. So don't tell me that it isn't an issue, because it's clearly an issue. Right? Like, they're on pace. So, like, I think this second most shootouts we've had, I think going back to when it was 4-on-4, when there was obviously more shootouts, right? Like, that's why they went to 3-on-3, was to eliminate shootouts. And now the teams, sadly, we're always coaching to find ways to limit offense. It just pisses me off. But anyway, now one team, Rupper, that isn't limiting anything, the Buffalo freaking Sabres just continue to roll. Alex Tuch gets a hat trick. So he's part of it. The Sabres have had 3 hat tricks this month. The NHL has set a new record, most hat tricks in a month, with 30. The Sabres, in their last 24 games, best team in the NHL, 20 wins, 3 losses, 1 tie. And there's the hat trick. You look at them all, all the names, Tuch and Dahlin, lots of defensemen, Dahlin and Ekholm and Bouchard lately. So Edmonton and Buffalo had the most hat tricks so far this month, each with 3. And then there's multiple teams. Zibanejad's the only player to have 2, though. He had 2 hatties this month. And the last 8 days, there's been at least 1 hat trick every day in this month. So it's wild. Lots of goals, lots of hats. It's probably good for business. I noticed some rinks, after the hat trick scored, they're like 20% off hats now on the main concourse, and people got to go buy a new hat. But the Buffalo Sabres, speaking of Alex Tuch, he scores his hat trick. I want to play the clip because I think a lot of people's opinions of the Sabres have switched dramatically, right? 2 months ago, a lot of people, myself included, thought, geez, what are they going to do here? Like, they're going to have to trade away some guys? What's going on? And now suddenly they're the hottest team in the NHL. And listen to this clip from Alex Tuch, because I think this tells you everything you need to know about the mindset of the Sabres.
Alex, what's it like? This team for so long has hoped to become good, hoped to become competitive. What's it like now, expecting to win every night you come out?
Yeah, stopped hoping. It's good. You know what? We're coming in with a lot of confidence. Everybody's coming in trying to prove themselves, and we're trying to prove as a team that we're legit. We're not just going to go for the playoffs. We're going to go for the cup, and that's our goal. To get better each and every day. That's it. That's the end goal, honestly. We're not in here just to squeak in. We're in here to try to keep winning. We're chasing a couple of really good teams in Detroit and Tampa right now, and we know each game's going to be a playoff like hockey, and it's a huge 2 points tonight to get. And now we have Montreal chasing us, so they're going to come to play on Saturday, and we got to bring our A game. and we're going to be ready to win.
I love that, right? Like, and by Mike Harrington, great question, a longtime beat reporter for Buffalo, asked that question. But man, I love that mindset. Hey, we're not here just to squeak in now, and why not? Like, it's been an extended period of time. We're coming up on 25 games where you're winning, over 82% of your games. That's a pretty good stretch.
Yeah, it's starting to, it's a crazy ride when I date back 2 months ago. I was adamant the only way you get past this is to burn it down. And what I said, burn it down. And what I actually said was that I think you remove everybody. Like when I mean everybody, like not speaking in Buffalo's situation, but just speaking in teams in general. I think there's some teams that have had a stench for so long over time that almost to the degree where almost you need new trainers, new, like literally everything, because there's this aura that, oh, here we go again. And you need to like gut the whole thing. And it's as ridiculous as that sounds, like I think that you see teams over in the past that needed to do that. Now, they're 3 games into their win streak, the original winning streak to kind of get this thing going. And that was with Kevin Adams as GM. So is there a GM bump? Yeah, maybe in some regards, but it was kind of heading in that direction in some regards already. So you got to give credit to Kevin Adams as far as some of the players that he has on this roster here. Since Yarmo's taken over, this has been fantastic for the Buffalo Sabres. And I think where it gets to kind of what Alex Tuck's talking about there, it gets to a point where we're talking about hottest team in hockey. Are they for real? Are they going to make it? Because the ridiculous run they got on got them in the conversation to make the playoffs. But you just said like 25 games. When you're talking 25, 30 games of a sample size, is this who they are? You know what I mean? Like, so in 2 months, you go from, in my humble opinion, burn it down to, okay, you're in the conversation, to now I'm sitting here like, are they a contender in the East? Can they come out of the East? And I think the West has certainly got better teams, more cup contenders in the West. The only one I consider to be a cup contender truly is the Tampa Bay Lightning in the East. And there's something in me that thinks the Florida Panthers DNA, if they can get in, watch out. But no one else I consider in the East to be that. Maybe I should start considering them, because at some point, I mean, I'll never forget what I've seen early on. But when you're talking, I mean, hell, Gregs, if this goes 40 games and they've lost 6, I think that's who they are at that point. Like that's not a hot streak anymore. That's who they are. It's an incredible story, and that mindset that Alex Tuck has, I can't wait to see where this goes.
So on December 8th, Buffalo was dead last in the Eastern Conference at 26 points. They were 9 back of Detroit in their division, 8 back of Tampa Bay and Boston, 7 back of Montreal. So now you fast forward to today. Tampa Bay leads the entire Eastern Conference now, but Buffalo is only 5 back, so they've only gained 3 points on Tampa because Tampa's been really good in that time. Detroit is now 3 points ahead of them. Montreal is tied with them, and actually Buffalo is ahead because they got a game in hand and they got way more regulation wins. Like, and they're ahead of Boston. Like they have rocketed up the standings, basically going from 16th to 4th in a span of 24 games. And so, yeah, I think Buffalo is definitely hot. What about Alex Lyon? He's won 10 in a row in goal for them, which is a Sabres franchise record. The Dominator couldn't even do that, for goodness sakes. So, yeah, this Buffalo team, I'll be curious maybe what they look at adding or not here. But yeah, you got to put respect on their name, no question. They've been a massive turnaround, one of the biggest ones we've ever seen.
So how crazy of a turnaround it's been. That Atlantic division's been on fire. Even during that stretch, you had Tampa, like you mentioned, Detroit, Montreal. So the fact that you go on this type of run but only gain 5 points on Detroit's 8-point lead. Is that what you said originally? What? Anyways,
they gained six on Detroit. Yeah.
So gaining 6 on Detroit when you have gone on that type of run shows you this never would happen unless you went on that type of run, because Detroit was playing really, really well too. Yeah, this is the league we're in right now. Like, it's hard to make up ground. That's why use this as a cautionary tale in some regards to teams that are 8 points out right now. You're out, dude. You're done, dude. Like, if you're if you're 10 points out now, you're completely done. You're 9, 8, like you take it with a grain of salt. Like, you're going to have to go on a Buffalo-esque run and hope that the other teams aren't playing the way Tampa and Detroit and Montreal have been playing. You're toast. It's a tough one. I'll say this. I talked to Marty Baron the other day, who does great work for the Sabres, on their broadcast. And because when I was looking and digging in some of the numbers during their 11-game win streak or whatever it was, they were getting elite goaltending. Alex Lyon started it. UPL got going. They had a 3-headed monster as far as all 3 of their goaltenders were playing pretty well. And they weren't defending greatly. So I was thinking, all right, well, this is at some point here, you're going to have the goaltending kind of taper off. And he brought up a great point the other day, and he watches them every day, where he said, you know what? There was a situation in one of the games, I think it was in the Montreal game, where they were up and they had a play. I think it was actually Alex Tuck that he mentioned, where you're skating up ice and this team used to be looking for that next one. And this is an epidemic for me in the NHL. This is the age of hockey right now. Every team looks for the next one. Note, there's very few teams nowadays that play the scoreboard, play to win. Of course, you're playing to win. That's the goal. But there's ways to do it to get there. And now the Buffalo Sabres are getting the red line, dumping it in, making a good line change. And as unsexy as that sounds, that's what good teams do. And Marty's like, they're doing that now. So they're defending a little bit better, but they're making conscious decisions in the game that, hey, right now, like, we're winning the game right now. If the game ended right now, we win. We don't need another one. We'll get another one. We'll take another one if it's there, but we're not going to push for it. And I think that that's the big difference between teams winning and losing in this league, and the teams that have it, like that makes you a good hockey club.
Yeah. And speaking of, another team is Tampa Bay. Like, Kucherov has had 31 points this month. And they don't play, unfortunately, until Sunday, so it'll start a new month. But the Tampa Bay Lightning, like, as great as Buffalo's been, they've got themselves back in it. Tampa Bay has been equally good in that time. And I mentioned Buffalo's record of 23-1. Well, Tampa Bay is 18-3-2 in that span. Tampa's number 1 in the NHL in goals at 4 per game. Buffalo is second at 3.92. But then you go to the other end of the ice. Tampa Bay's first in goals against, 2.35. Buffalo second at 2.38. So they're the 2 best offensive teams, and they're the 2 best defensive teams over the last 2 months. And you know what? If you're Detroit, somehow you could look and say, man, if we could finish first, then those two got to battle each other in the first round. So it's kind of wild. No one at the start of the year would have said, it's a real good race here between Detroit, Buffalo, and Tampa on who's going to get home ice in the Atlantic, because Toronto's out. Like, let's put them on. Today is January 30th. They're done. Okay. They are finished. Yeah. They're a terrible road team. They got spanked again in Seattle last night. They're 8 points out of the playoffs, chasing a whole bunch of teams, and they have nothing going for them. They've lost 6 in a row, Rupper, but like, this is not a real bold statement for me to say they're done, but they're done. They're not making the playoffs. And really, their whole Olympic break as a management is going to decide who are we trading off before the deadline.
Yeah, no, it's fair. It's fair. I mean, it's I think they're done. I think they're done too. So I'll second that. But where do you go with the group? I mean, not a ton of. I mean, they got some UFA. So those are the immediate ones you look at, because it was going to decide how they're going to manage some of those if they were in a playoff spot. I mean, you might be eating some of those as far as keeping your team together. But if it's very clear that you don't have it right now, there's those players to move. But then it gets interesting. Like, to really shake up the group. I don't know. I mean, you thought Mitch Marner departure would shake up the group and change them in some ways, and I think it has, but I think they miss him a lot. What part of the core do you believe in? I mean, do you run it back? I mean, I still think you're sitting there with a pretty good start with Willie, Austin, Matthew Nyes, John Tavares. Like that's still a great start. The back end needs some help. You know, the goaltending, there's been health issues for goaltending. It has been a huge factor. So I don't know where they go with this. You got complementary pieces that have been pretty good for them in some regards, but at the same time, you have to change something. So I don't know where that goes, Greg's. Like, I don't believe you're shaking the core of what is remaining of the core. I think that probably stays the same, but you're going to have to do some sort of shakeup here because you can't allow next season to come and this roster to look pretty similar to this.
Yeah, like honestly, it's a tough spot. Like last year, I think how good their goaltending was maybe got overlooked a little bit, and it covered up for some mass because defensively they haven't been good. I'll say this: that Brandon Carlo trade, less than a year later, does not look good. Right? You gave up Minton. Look what Minton's doing in Boston. Never mind a first round pick, right? And Brandon Carlo has been okay at best in your second pair. So if you're going to make it, like obviously they're not going to be adding anybody, but you've got to try to make up that trade back. Right? And that happens sometimes. You lose a trade, but man, then you've got to say, okay, we got to make a deal here now that we can bring in, a young player in an organization that they think is not going to become the player that we do, and then go out and grab him, because that trade has not worked out at all. And it's early, and Minton's only getting better.
Yeah, he looks good in Boston there. And then it gets tricky too, because where is Toronto in the grand scheme of where they believe they're at, where they obviously we know where they want to be, but realistically where they want to be. And they have no first round pick, no second round pick this year, no first round pick next year. Like, so it's not like you have these assets that are going to be up and coming here in the next little bit, or even drafting high in the next couple years. I don't know where they go. I don't know where you go. They're going to have to figure it out here, and they've got to get a change there. I will say this, though. Look at Buffalo, for an example, and I don't see Toronto necessarily turning into the Buffalo Sabres, but I do think getting Lindy Ruff there, and it looks like it's taken almost a year and a half of Lindy being there to really change a lot of things and getting guys to buy in, and those things that we mentioned about managing game, blah, blah, blah. They've got different struggles, or they had different struggles than Toronto. But maybe, I know there's a lot of Toronto fans that are like, probably want Craig Berube out. But at the end of the day, sometimes it takes a year plus to get everybody to weed out things, to buy in, to do whatever. I don't know if you can rest on that. You still got to make some tweaks with the roster. But I mean, I don't see a world where making a coaching change is going to do all that much. It's a mess, to say the least.
Yeah. Not ideal at all. Not what they were expecting this season for Toronto. But hey, somebody loses out. Buffalo looks like they're back in. Detroit looks they're back in. The Pittsburgh Penguins keep rolling. The New York Islanders. We could see a lot of changeover in the Eastern Conference. And you mentioned Florida, Rupper, but man, Florida's in a world of hurt here. They're 8 points out of the playoffs right now. They do have 2 games in hand. That's their advantage. They have 2 games in hand. But Brad Marchand, they might have lost him now. Add more potential injury woes to that team. And the Panthers they don't look like the team of the past. They obviously miss Barkov a ton. And the way that, Buffalo and Montreal and Boston are playing, like we just outlined what the Panthers are doing. What Buffalo did for 24 games. And they gained 4 points, 5 points, 6 points. Florida's got to gain 8 points. So they're going to have to go on a real big run, but they're going to need one of Montreal or Boston or Buffalo to really stub their toe in their final 27, 28 games.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different. It's not a ton points wise, but there's like an example, New Jersey. When you're talking about the Eastern Conference, New Jersey in their crosshairs for me has got to be the Pittsburgh Penguins. Like they're not you're going to have the Atlantic is going to have probably 5 teams, I think.
Yeah.
And so you can't look at getting top 3 in the Metro for like the Devils, for an example, is probably much more doable than a wild card spot. So maybe that's working to their advantage in some way, shape, or form. But then when you talk about the Florida Panthers, it's a little different because, you know, they can have a better points, more points than second or third in the Metro. It doesn't matter if you're not chasing down those guys in your division. So that's where it gets a little bit tricky, like you're saying. I'll say this, because of their DNA, what they've done, all that stuff, yada, yada. I've said it a million times. I do think they're the team that's built a little bit different where it's very hard for me to put that final nail in the coffin on them. And I'm not going to do it yet. I think that they've shown that they're different. But one thing that has to change, Sergei Bobrovsky's going to have to start taking over here. He's going to have to start taking over. His numbers, I'm a big Bob fan. Bob comes up in the big moments. And even if you date back them winning the cup the last 2 years, he has not been dominant in the regular season. But when you need a win or you need a save, Sergei Bobrovsky makes those. They're going to need a lot of them right now. And that is the path. Like, I don't see them being able to do that, even though you see them right outside there. You're talking, they got some games in hand. The Boston Bruins would be a team that I would be a little bit nervous if I was Boston, just because of who that is that's chasing you. But none of this happens unless Sergei Bobrovsky puts the team on his back, in my belief.
Well, so you look at Sergei Bobrovsky, and there's been 43 goalies so far this season who have started at least 20 games. Started, not played, started. And out of those 43, Bobrovsky is 39th in save percentage at .874. Freddie Anderson, who's only played 21 games, Samuel Montembeault, Jordan Binnington, Samuel Urson are the guys below him. Now, the difference is those guys have started, 20 to 28 games. Bobrovsky started 36, right? Like, he's starting a ton of games, and he's not getting you great numbers. Like, he's tied for 5th most games started, but he's 39th in save percentage, and his goals against average, which is 3.08, puts him out of those goalies, comes in ranked 36th. So, like, yeah, but I don't know if it's realistic to think he's just going to flip a switch and go from 36th and 39th ranked to having to probably play like a top 5 guy. Like, we looked at Buffalo, and look at Alex Lyon's numbers during that run, and UPL, his numbers during that run. Like, this would have to be a complete 180 for an older goalie, and I think it's going to be really hard.
Yeah, so this is where I get myself in trouble in my own head. Is I just spoke about how I can't basically forget the DNA, and I can't forget who I have seen the Florida Panthers be. There's that part of it, but there's still the part of me that thinks the exact same way with like the Boston Bruins on the flip side. Like, I've seen this team be very bad. Yeah, be a team that I didn't believe was going to be. So I don't want to discredit them. What they're doing is awesome. You can say that about Buffalo. We just kind of talked on them. Montreal they can run hot, but they can run cold too. So I think that because of the unproven nature of some of the teams that Florida's chasing, probably just fuels me more to keep this alive. But I mean, you were literally getting to the point where you're talking like you lose 2 in a row, 3 in a row, you're done. Like that's how close it's getting here for the Florida Panthers for me. But it's just really tough for me to, like I said, put that final nail in the coffin on them.
What about the Colorado Avalanche? They're obviously making the playoffs. They're still the top team. They're kind of going through their first little funk. They're 4-4-2 in their last 10 games. Tampa Bay is suddenly 7 points back of Colorado for first in the NHL, right? Like, Colorado, people thought, hey man, like they're going to chase for best record ever. And obviously that's now out the window. They're still going to have a good record. Don't get me wrong. But Any concerns at all about Colorado, or is this just a pre-Olympic funk that the teams go through, and it might be a good thing at the end of the day for them to deal with a little bit of adversity?
I think it's a good thing. I think dealing with a little bit of adversity is a good thing, but I think they've had enough of it now. You know what I mean? Like that was they've dealt with it, or they're going through it. I think now it's like, all right, we got a taste of it. Now you want to see them start playing themselves out of it. You don't want to see this thing continually go into the break, because now you're sitting there on the break, and I just know from playing, like, it's hard to unplug on Olympic breaks when your team's struggling, regardless of where you are in the season. Like the regular season, like this is still a dominant team. Like they're with what they're doing right now and still being 7 points up is pretty remarkable. But at the same rate, like it gets concerning if this bleeds into break and then coming after, because you got some players that are going over to the Olympics, and they're going to be playing a lot of minutes, prominent roles on their respective clubs. And then there's that concern of what are they going to look like when they come back. And it starts to get a little bit tricky, but I think this is still good for them to go through. But I think it's about time you start seeing them kind of snap out of it, because now all of a sudden, if you're sitting there the last couple of games before break, and then after break, you pretty much got no time, and then the deadline. I mean, I think this team went from not really needing or feeling like they need to do anything to now being like, oh, maybe we have to address a couple things. You're kind of running out of time.
Yeah, my only concern about the Avs is the size of their decor in the playoffs. That's my only little concern about them. You've got, hey, Makar is Makar. He's an elite player. But then you've got Taves, and then you've got Malinsky, and you've got Sammy Girard. I'm just going to say that. And I won't be surprised if we see the Avalanche management look to address that, right? Like, hey, Josh Manson's great, but he's one guy. You need more than one big guy. When they won the Cup, they had towers back there, right? The two, like Jack Johnson, I don't care if he's a third pair defenseman. He's a big third pair defenseman, right? Sammy Girard, he only played 7 games. He got hurt. He wasn't playing for them in the playoffs. Like, they had a big decor. Josh Manson was unbelievable for them in 2022 in the playoffs. So when I look at a team that's a very good team that has one obvious lacking, and everybody has a weakness somewhere. That to me is Colorado. I think they need some skilled size in their back end.
And that's a fair point. And then to chuck a couple other things, the power play during this little stretch has been even worse than what it's been. So they've been like
makes no sense.
They've been like a 29th power play basically all season long. I think they're sub 10% in the last like 7 games or something crazy. Like, so they're not getting it done there. So we're starting to get to the point now where it's like, man, their power play seems like it's a momentum sucker as opposed to giving them the momentum. And then the one thing I hate to say it, and I hate to always go back to this, but it's going to come up. It's going to rear its head at some point. Their goaltending is not going to be favorable for a lot of matchups in the playoffs. Like, look at some of the teams. Like right now, if they went head to head with the Dallas Stars, you're going to give them the nod in that department. You're going to go against the Minnesota Wild. Minnesota Wild are going to get the nod there. I mean, I wonder if that is still. It's easy to say that because they're losing right now. And I wouldn't say that solely because of their goaltending. But at the end of the day, like, I still think that that's an area where they are vulnerable. But so is some other teams like Vegas. That's an area where they're vulnerable.
Oh, God, yes.
You could say the Edmonton Oilers. Like, we could say they're vulnerable in that area. Like, there's a lot of what ifs. But for a team that was supposed to be like setting records this year, you think that you'd feel a little more confident in that. And I think they do. I don't. And I wonder when it's going to rear its head.
Yeah, well, their power play makes no sense. That you've got that much skill and their power play is terrible. Like, but it's a reminder when people try to disparage teams that are good on the power play, I'm like, are you clueless? Like, you don't get less points for a power play goal. They count the same.
Yeah.
And so I would argue that power play goals are more important because the amount of minutes played in a game on the power play compared to the rest of the game, it's a massive highest. The rate per minute of goals on a power play for a team is so infinitely higher than it can be. So, you know what? We haven't scored for 20 minutes on 5-on-5. Boom, you get 2 power plays. All right, you get 3, and now you score. Well, who cares that you didn't score 5-on-5?
Yeah.
Because your power play is that effective. And to me, that's the one area. Like when you've got Makar and you got McKinnon and you got Natchez and you got Brock Nelson, you're like, tell me why they can't have a good power play. It doesn't make sense.
That's the other thing for me, though, just from playing, and I mean this in like a positive way, is your best players have an arrogance. Your best players have a confidence in a very good way. I know arrogance a lot of times is used with a little bit of a negative feel to it. I mean this in a positive way. You want guys to be cocky. Give me that puck. We're going to score. Your top end guys have to feel that way. The power play gives them the opportunity, if they're not feeling it 5-on-5, to start to get the momentum going, feeling the puck, having some time and space, making some plays. If you go on the power play, I've been on teams where we've had bad power plays. The star players, even though you have Nathan McKinnon doing what he's doing this year, Cale Makar, they've been fantastic. So I don't think that they necessarily lack confidence when they go 5-on-5 because they've been great in those situations. But you get frustrated. There's an ego with superstars in them feeling it and snapping the puck around and getting results on a power play. When you don't have that, that's where you get the gate slamming coming to the bench. That's where you get them a little bit like it's a nasty thing that can go the wrong way. So I was always one of them where, man, you of course want your power play to be one of the best in the league, but that's common sense. But I also I wanted the power play to snap the puck around, to look good. Because when they look good, they feel good. That spills over to the rest of the game. That's an area that I think Colorado lacks in some regard, where they get off those power plays and they don't have any momentum.
Yeah. And it's an oddity to see it. And, Nathan McKinnon is, for him, a little bit of a funk here. Just in the month of January, Kucherov's gained 13 points on him. Kucherov is now third with 82. McKinnon's got 88. McDavid's up at 94, right? So now McKinnon does have games in hand. And that's the other thing, Rupper, is that Colorado's schedule is way more condensed than some other teams coming out of the Olympic break. And they've got quite a few guys going to the Olympics, right? And same with Florida. Like the reason I don't think Florida can come back, Rupper, right? They've got 9 guys going to the Olympics. All these other teams are going to have, some teams have 2 or 3 or 4. And so Florida, they have 9 without Barkov, right? Now, maybe they only have 8 if Marchand doesn't make it, but they got a lot of players going. And that's a little bit maybe more wear and tear, right? So I look at Florida, 8 points to make up. Marchand's a real spark plug for their team. He's arguably been their best player all year long. And now if he goes out, there's a lot of signs that are pointing to Florida. And I know that you're not ready to say it, Rupper, but I am leaning.
You got him there?
I'm like at an 8.5 that Florida is just, the boat to the playoffs. They're trying to run down the pier to jump into it, right? Toronto's not even on the beach, right? Toronto hasn't even got out of their car. They're done, right? But, the Philadelphia Flyers, sorry, Flyer fans, I don't think they're getting back in. But the Florida Panthers, man, just because of how well Detroit, Montreal, Boston, Buffalo, they're all playing, they'd all have to, one of them has to have a real fall apart. And then Florida's got to get red hot. And they haven't got really red hot all year long.
No, that's true. It's true. And we're getting to that. How many games are we talking before? Probably most teams got 3 games, give or take.
Yeah,
before
3.
the
Some
break
might
here.
have 4 because you go till Thursday. But yeah, some might have 4 and 7. But yeah, you're going some teams I know have 3. And then you come out of the break for some teams. I was looking, Detroit and Edmonton have played the most games already. And they'll play each, I think, 3 more. They've only got 24 games essentially. Because if we do the break, even if I just say when they come back on the 24th of February, they're only playing 24 games in 53 days. They're not even playing every second day, right? That's a way easier schedule. Some teams got 17 games in March. Others only have 3. It's a big difference. So
Yeah.
Like a team like Colorado, like, trust me, Colorado's making the playoffs. They're fine. Like, I still don't even think they can get caught by Dallas or Minnesota, but you don't want to have a condensed schedule later in the season if you can avoid it.
No. And we talked about it, just making up points. It's ridiculous. I just don't, the way the game is, the way we started this pod, where we're talking about giving up those late games and games getting overtime, how many teams have taken games to overtime, and maybe that misconstrues for a lot of people who they are. It just happens. Games get to overtime now. You cannot make up points when you've got teams getting points in processes like that. So, I mean, last night was a great example of it.
And before we go, Rupper, I saw your tweet because I was chuckling. And how, last night, Patrick Kane passes Mike Modano. There's a big celebration, most points ever by American-born player. But then you have some sites online, most points by American player. And I'm like, no, like, that's what makes this confusing. Like, I know that Brett Hall is dual citizenship. He played some lower level hockey before, even he played in the BCHL. Then he went and played in North Dakota. I think it was North Dakota, in NCAA. But he's been American. He's never played for Canada, represented them anywhere. He represented the United States in 1986 the first time. He's listed on the NHL's website as American. And I know he's not American born, but he's American, dual citizenship, and he's an American. It's odd because I know I saw you have to say American born on your tweet, quote tweeting it, because it just seems a little, it's odd to me. And I wonder, like, I think that if they don't have this when he passes Brett Hall, like, what does this mean? Like, yeah, we're putting up American born points leader, but Pat, Brett Hall has 1,391 points as an American. So are we going to have the exact same ceremony when Patrick Kane passes him in March?
He was at University of Minnesota Duluth, Brett Hall. Okay. And he, but the point in all this, and you're the one that told me about this, and so I started like kind of digging on it a little bit more, and I just don't. I'm not trying to take away from what's going on with Patrick Kane and Mike Modano. Like, Patty Kane I consider him the best American-born player, American that's played ever right now. Yeah. So it's inevitable. Like, maybe some people will have allegiance to somebody else, and that's fine. But he's going to pass Brett Hall too. So this is kind of a moot point. But the part that I want to make right now is you've got this chase, the Kane watch, Modano's present, and these are great things because Mike Modano was one of my favorite guys as an American kid. Mike Modano was like that bar you looked up to, and I had some others too with Jeremy Roenick and whatever. And Patty Kane is that now. You talk about players in the league now that were like when they were kids, they looked up to Patty Kane, which is wild. It makes you feel very old. But these are two guys that were just those compass type players for USA Hockey. But at the end of the day, he's going to pass Brett Hall soon. Are we going to still follow it like we're doing this? And it feels weird. Like, if this comes and goes and he passes 1391 and no one's saying anything, that's extremely weird to me. Like, why? Like, are we going to address it? Are we going to talk about it? I don't care how we got to the, using words in certain areas. You have to address it. And the fact in all this right now, we're talking about Mike Modano, and nobody is mentioning even Brett Hall's name. It's kind of weird to me. I don't understand. Totally. Brett Hall was Team USA. He was on the Olympics. He was on the World Cup. He never wore, in my belief, a Team Canada sweater. He made that decision in 1986 or whatever it was to be USA. I'm pretty sure you talk to Brett Hall right now, he considers himself an American. Now, this is funny because you Canadians can hold this over our head where, the most American points is still got Canadian ties. He's dual citizen. Yep, you guys got that. That's fine. Patty Kane will separate that and he'll be ours and only ours. But it's a fair conversation. Like, Brett Hall has the most points by an American. That's where we're at right now. And I just hope that when Patty Kane passes him, may happen this year, may have to wait till next year. I hope that people start talking about that a little bit more because it just seems very weird to me that it's not getting mentioned.
Like, if you look at the Americans' greatest victory involving NHL players was the 96 World Cup. I don't think there's any debate on that, right? Like, I know there's the Miracle on Ice and everything, but, that was against the Soviets and it wasn't NHL players. And it was this great, surprise kind of Rudy on ice type of story for America. And I love it. It's a great story. But when you're talking best on best, the Americans 1996, that's their pinnacle. That's their one. Well, who led them in scoring? Brett freaking Hall. He had 7 goals, 11 points. He led their whole team in scoring that year. And it's just odd to me that this guy's hasn't even been mentioned, even though he's the highest American scorer currently. Now, Patty Kane's going to pass him, and that's awesome. And it's not a knock on Patrick Kane. It's the knock on the organizers. And they better have Brett Hall, or at least ask him to fall around Patrick Kane, because that's the one. No one in 20 years is going to look and say, most of America, it's going to, and the great part is once Patrick Kane passes him, then this stupidity will be done. Because then it's going to be most points by an American, not American born, not American, lived there at 20, American, which is everybody else. No one talks about, hey, this guy has the most points by Canadian born player. We never freaking heard it. It's the dumbest thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's just dumb.
But I don't know where this was kind of like, I understand when you go back, and I don't know every aspect of it, but I believe it was kind of a complicated situation in regards to when all that went down, with whether it's playing for Team Canada or Team USA and he got cut from a specific team, whatever. But at the end of the day, for me, if as, let's say, USA Hockey, if you're fine with him wearing the sweater at all these events and playing for them and leading the team, then you should be fine with recognizing him now in these moments. And nobody is. And I don't know. I played with Holly for 5 minutes in Arizona. Barely know him. I got no dog in the race here. I just think it's weird. As an American kid growing up and looking up to those teams, I've got a Team USA jersey right behind here that's signed by John LeClaire and Chris Chelios and Keith Kachuk and Jeremy Roenick and Brett Hall. Brett Hall was Team USA. Jesus, look what I just did. I'm just calling him Team Canada. He's Team USA. And it just doesn't feel right. And again, I don't want to take away from anything that just happened with Mike Modano, because for me, Mike Modano was the bar, because he's just like one of my favorite guys to ever play the game as a US born player.
Anybody who watched hockey when Mike Modano and the jersey was flapping as he'd go flying through the neutral zone, he was one of the most breathtaking, exciting players to ever play the game. Like, no question. And so it's just weird to me, and it's unfortunate. They've got a few weeks to figure it out, right? Maybe they can think about how they're going to honor Brett Hall when Patrick Kane eventually passes him, because Patty Kane will pass him. Make no mistake about it. It's not like he's 100 points or 250 points behind him. He's 16 points now back? Trust me, he's going to pass him sooner than later, and that'll be great. But it's the whole thing's odd. And your tweet really, I had to bring it up because you had to put it out there. American born. He's not the most points by an American. And I just think it's bad that Americans are kind of like, what do you mean? And in a month, some non-diehard Oilers hockey fans are going to be like, what? I thought he just passed it for most points by American. That's what they're going to think. It's just confusing, right? So it's weird. Anyway, let's bring in Pat Puff to the pod. Patty, how you doing, Matt?
Doing great. I love the conversation today, guys. Obviously, some interesting stuff. I think I found some discrepancies on Bet365, so I'm excited to get into this one. Fill in the blank, brought to you by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game, use code NATION. Bet365 must be 19 or older. So I talk about discrepancies, and this kind of goes on topic to you guys talking about the Colorado Avalanche starting to slip a little bit. If we look here, and for the podcast listeners, for the Colorado Avalanche to win the Western Conference, they're plus 135. But for them to win the President's Trophy, they're minus 1,400. So Bet365 thinks they're going to win the whole league, but they're not confident they're going to win the Western Conference. So I guess it's kind of a weird one, but I guess my question is, if this were true, Who on this list do you think could beat the Colorado Avalanche in the Western Conference? They've got Vegas and Edmonton right now, plus 400, plus 500, but realistically, Minnesota and Dallas are way closer. What do you think, Gregs?
Yeah, well, that's an oddity for sure. I look at it would have to be the Central, like Vegas or Edmonton. They're just too far back. You're not gonna to make up that many points at this time. I think would be almost. I'd have to look to see if anybody at the top. Like we've teams from the bottom, but Colorado has 79 points. They're like 15 ahead of both Edmonton and Vegas, and Colorado has a game in hand. Like no chance. So I will go with Dallas. If I had to pick, I'll pick Dallas.
So which part you're picking them for the Western Conference?
Yeah,
at that value.
Now this is just regular season to finish ahead of Colorado. Like if I had to, like obviously I would still pick Colorado, but if I had to pick one, I would pick Dallas.
Okay, so I was taking that as the top category would be making the Stanley Cup Finals. That's not the way of taking this.
No, the top category is just to win a Western Conference, and the bottom one is to win the entire, to the President's Trophy. So it's weird to me that they're confident.
That's why I'm getting confused with it. That's why I was getting confused with it. All right. I mean, it's. Colorado is got a pretty good. We talked all show about the points and how hard it is to make up points. Like still Colorado is in the driver's seat here. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. But yeah, I would have to assume that the Avs, that's pretty good money there.
Yeah, that's why it was so weird to me. I thought I would bring it up. But if you do think someone's going to beat them for the President's Trophy, I mean, Tampa at plus 1,000, Carolina plus 3,300, there's decent value there if you want to just kind of put a little bit on it. But if you're confident, like that looks like they are, that Colorado's going to win the President's Trophy, for them to win the Western Conference at plus 135 seems like a no-brainer to me. Sticking on the Colorado line, let's jump over to the Rocket Richard. And it's the same kind of one. Like Nathan MacKinnon looks like he's running away with it at 38, but Connor McDavid's been shooting the puck. He's at 34 now. Is there anyone on this list that you think could maybe sneak up on Nathan MacKinnon? I mean, with, like you said, the schedule and everything, Colorado starting to slip. Is there anyone on here that looks interesting to you, Rob?
So I think when we've been kind of following the Art Ross, this has come up. So it's going to come up for me here too. I have to probably still lean into Nathan MacKinnon, although at one point he looked like he was going to run away with this just because of the games played. He's got some more games to be played than some of those other guys. So it's going to be hard for me, but it's much more of a thought process now than where it was, I don't know, a number of weeks ago. But I still got Nathan MacKinnon.
Yeah, he's everybody's going to have a little bit of a funk. I think he's only scored, and he had a pair of goals in one game of the last 8. The other 7 he went goalless, which is very odd for the run that he was on. Like he was on pace there for a while. It looked like he was going to score 65 goals, but on pace and reality are very different. I'll go with McDavid just because since December 1st he's led the NHL in goals. He's shooting way more, and the only thing is, he admitted that he had a Four Nations kind of hangover last year. Emotionally, it was a little bit of a letdown coming back from it. It was so exciting. They won. Everything was great. The Olympics, you win it, it'll still be a big deal, no question. And McDavid kind of joked. He said, hey, I'll take a 2-week lull to win a gold medal, right? And so, but if he has it, maybe McKinnon's going to have the same thing. So maybe they'll be in a lull together because they'll be on the same team. So I'll go with McDavid just to be different.
That's fair. Plus 400 for Connor McDavid on the Rocket Richard right now. And the last one I have for you, I promise I won't clip this so you can answer honestly. We talked about Buffalo on a hot streak right now. Minus 500 to miss the playoffs, to make the playoffs, sorry. Plus 350 not to make the playoffs. So I think there's some great value there if you don't think Buffalo can hold on. But I just need to know, fill in the blank, minus 500. Will the Buffalo Sabres make the playoffs for the first time since 2010, Gregs?
Yeah, well, I think it's 2012, but I'm going to take the I'm going to take the Sabres all day. Lock it in. I wasn't sure about to lock out some teams, Rupper, but I will put the stamp of approval. The Buffalo Sabres, the drought is over. There is going to be a playoff game in Buffalo. And I'm telling you, the one building that I would want to be in the first round of the playoffs, whether or not it's going to be game 1 or game 3, because right now it'd be game 3, would be in Buffalo. Because I'm like, you have literally almost a generation of fans who haven't seen the playoffs, right? Guys who are, some people are like, I'm 28. I've never seen a playoff game, right? As an adult, right? Heck, 30, 32 as an adult. They've never seen a playoff game. Those will be one of the most sought after tickets ever. Bars in Buffalo. That's the place to be, buddy. Rupper, you guys in the NHL Network, that should be the game you guys vote to. Let's go to Buffalo for their first home playoff game.
I love everything you just said there. But what I'm looking at on my screen, if I just want pure value, I'm going to say Buffalo to not make the playoffs. I would take that at plus 350 because, again, I still can't ignore things I've seen of the past. And if you're giving me that type of value, I hope I'm dead wrong. But maybe this is the hedge the bets there. I either hedge my emotions, I should say. Either I get to experience Buffalo making the playoffs or I win this bet. I would take them no at plus 350.
Patty, you were right. 2012. I was wrong. You were right off the top with that. So 2012, like you think back, where were you and what were you doing? Like Rupper, were you still in the league? You're still playing, weren't you?
Yeah. That was, I was playing for the Rangers that year, 2012. Yeah.
Jeez. Like
a long time ago.
God, it's wild, man. How long ago that is. And so the Sabre fans, honestly, like I would border on want to fly down there for a trip just to go because there's certain fun experiences as a sports fan. Yes, it would be wild. Like the outside party before the game, like they'd be tailgating in Buffalo for sure, right? Like I couldn't believe it, man. You're 32 years of age, and for a lot of those guys, they've never 32 and under. You've never, as an adult, been to a playoff game in Buffalo in the NHL.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. So I'm cheering for them. But like you said, if you don't think they can make a plus 350 is pretty good value. Hopefully they can bring some Bills Mafia.
Alex Tuck's going to cross check.
Yeah. All right. That's all I got for you. Fill in the blanks brought to you by Bet365.
Yeah. It's, hey man, the Sabres, it's just been a fun story to watch because it really hasn't slowed down. Now, I don't think they can go 23-1 in their next 24 games. Like it's pretty damn hard to do. That'd be amazing. I think Colorado's showing us that it's hard to go, another quarter of the season. But this is 24 games, Rupper, is like, more than a quarter of the season. Like it's a big enough sample size for me to say, hey, Buffalo is a good team now. They found their way. I agree with you about like the GM bump is unique because the GM bump, like he's not around the team every day.
Yeah. Hey, Gregs, the GM bump, like they needed a shakeup. They needed a shakeup of some way to get everybody's attention because that's a pretty dramatic thing. Like I've never experienced a GM getting switched in the middle of a season. So I think of so many different things where the GM is, that's the guy who signed these guys to contracts. That's personnel decisions all made by him. So it kind of is like a real eye opener for players to be like, oh, that guy's not here anymore. So now it's kind of a restart in some ways, but whatever it is, whatever happened, this is a type of sample size now that makes me really question, like, are these guys that legit? Like, it's fun to watch, but you're bang on. If they get in, they should get in. Game 1 in Buffalo or game whatever it is, maybe it's game 3 in Buffalo, it's going to be absolutely unbelievable. Yeah.
That's a play. Hey, Detroit, probably same thing. They haven't been there a while, but not as long as Buffalo. And the Anaheim Ducks, if they get back in, you'll have a few markets that will be pretty fired up for their fan bases for sure. Montreal, I know they were there last year, but maybe you get home ice advantage this time in Montreal, and that would be a totally different animal. So lots of potentials to make it a lot of fun here coming back down the stretch. Rupper, we'll be talking a lot of Olympics next Friday. We'll know for sure who's going and who's not going. There's some late injury bugs to still kind of iron out for some teams. So we'll get into all of that. Enjoy the final week before the Olympic break. And then we'll get to the Olympics. And like we always say, buddy, it's a really good silver medal roster that you've got. So
Well, I wish I can argue that the other way. I don't know. Hey, who knows? Maybe we can bring Brett Hull along and he can help out our squad for Team USA.
Yeah, we might have to get Holly on the show. That would be good. Awesome. I love it. That's another edition of The Rundown brought to you by Bet365. Have a great weekend.
Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Merrick, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.